Bună ziua, stimați telespectatori DCNewsTV, stimați cititori DCNews. Astăzi, 1 martie, pentru toți telespectatorii și cititorii noștri, nu doar pentru doamne și domnișoare, ci și pentru domni, în vizită la redacția noastră, ambasadorul extraordinar și plenipotențial al Armeniei la București, excelența sa, Sergey Minasyan. Welcome in our headquarters, Your Excellency.
Bună dimineața!
Bună dimineața! Foarte bine, foarte bine. Vorbiți un pic românește?
Puțin.
Puțin, good. Cât să citiți DCNews fără niciun fel de problemă?
It was a bit difficult after that, yeah.
Good. You still can read in Romanian DCNews, especially because we have a translation system in English and French of the most important news. You can even hear them.
I'm hearing, I'm watching, so the DCNews for me is one of the important sources of information both on domestic and foreign policy issues inside and around Romania. So that's why I really very appreciate also of this opportunity to be with you and sharing our thoughts, our position on our bilateral multilateral policy.
Super. Thank you so much. So, Your Excellency, why is March 1st an important date for your country, and not only for your country, also for Romania in the bilateral positions?
Because from the foreign policy perspective, this day it symbolizes the important celebration in our European policy, because on the 1st of March we are celebrating the first year of entering into force document agreement between Armenia and European Union, comprehensive and enhanced partnership agreement that was signed at the end of 2017 and entered in force last year. And it's really a very fundamental document that provides us on the multi-level formats to go further in our cooperation with European Union and also with all member countries in various dimensions, in various spheres, from the political, rule of law, reform sphere of democratization, more efficient government, till taxation, economic and social issues.
Also, I understand Romania was the first country from the United Europe which recognized many years ago the formation of Armenia. Armenia used to be a former Soviet republic at a certain moment. Before, Armenia has a very long history. Your country has a very long history. Did it help at the moment?
Sure, of course. Last year, even in this COVID situation and with all this constraint, together with our Romanian friends and colleagues, we celebrated 30 years of establishment of diplomatic relation between the Republic of Armenia and Romania. And as you mentioned, indeed, Romania was the first UN member country that recognized and established diplomatic relations with our new independent country on December 1991. And of course, it was a historical issue. It was a historical moment in our bilateral relations. Though, as you mentioned, our ties and the presence of our community here, at least maybe for 100 years, if not millennia. But the current stage of our political relation started since December 1991. And of course, for us, relation with Romania, it has, of course, very important and impressive bilateral element, but also it's a relation with a country which is some kind of a gate for Armenian to the European political, economic, cultural values, system of values on the European continent. So this is really very important stage for us. That's why when we are saying that we are now celebrating this first year of entering into force of CEPA, Comprehensive and Enhanced Partnership Agreement, that means also it's an important element for our bilateral relations between Yerevan and Bucharest.
Do you have a strong minority? Do you still have a strong minority in Romania in this moment?
You know that our community here, it's one of the oldest, if not the oldest one in all European continent. And we have some facts and sources that demonstrated that at least from the 15th century we had here established bishopate. We had here very strong communities, very active in trade and matters. And by the way, also in the interbellum period, we had a very big Armenian community that also include not only people that lived and established in Romania during the previous centuries, but also many people that escaped from Ottoman Empire after the genocide, and also many politicians, military and political leadership of the First Republic of Armenia after its collapse in 1920. And according to some estimates, after the Second World War, Armenian community here was about maybe 60 or 70,000 of people. Then some of them, they repatriated back to Armenia. And now, according to some our estimates, we have maybe 3,000 or 4,000 of Armenians lived mainly dispersed in a different, almost all big cities and județ of Romania. But official and visible presence of our community, it's not in this correlation with this quite a modest numbers, because Armenians, they used to play important role in political, economic development of Romania. Armenians, they are one of the so-called constitutional minorities in Romanian state according to the law. In the ethnic and religious sense, we have our MPs that represent our community in Romania, and Mr. Varjan Pamukyan, he also not just a member of parliament that represents Armenian minority, but he is also president of the minority group in Romanian parliament. So
we all know Mr. Varjan Pamukyan, who is a leader, a political leader dedicated to the community, but also to the Romanian people. Very well known. And I know, of course, somebody that I would like to name is my very good friend, Dr. Ghemijan. He's a nice face in Romania, in the Romanian medical field. And of course, Varujan Vosganian, that I like to dispute about the COVID problem, pandemics. But of course, many Armenians, they are, even in our days, important faces, important personalities in all different fields of our country.
Definitely.
Do they feel safe in Romania, this minority?
I would say that with very strong confidence that maybe in Romania our community, our minority feels and enjoys rights that not in many other countries in the world it could be compared. Just the fact that according to the constitution, as an ethnic and religious minority, they have a representation in the Romanian government, in the Romanian parliament, in the cultural and educational spheres of your country. It's something that means a lot and helps a lot them to preserve their ethnic and religious identity, being integral part of the Romanian society, but also keeping strong ties with historical homeland. Moreover, if I may to continue, we also see that the community it plays also important role in keeping and supporting ties and supporting in a difficult period also our other communities, including, for example, I'm very happy that our community in Romania it's involved a lot in providing different types of support and aid to refugees from Ukraine, Armenian origin, citizens of Armenia, but also their friends, their colleagues, their neighbors on the another part of the border. So it also demonstrates that the structures of Union of Armenia and of Romania, that the president, as you mentioned, the famous politician and vice president of the Union of Writers of Romania, Varujan Voskanyan, it has its organizational structure which helps not only Armenians in Romania, but also sometimes Armenians all from other European countries in different issues when we need their support.
In this conflict which split the world between Russia and Ukraine, I understand you have a strong community of Armenian in both countries.
Yes, it's unfortunately this conflict it affects again our compatriots living first of all inside Ukraine. We have hundreds of thousands of Armenians, citizens of Ukraine Armenian origin. We have thousands and thousands citizens of Armenia based and lived in Ukraine. We have also maybe 1.5 million Armenians living in Russian Federation, in other post-Soviet.
1.5 million in
yeah,
Russian Federation.
we have different figure, but about such a number of Armenians living in Russian Federation, and from maybe 400,000 to 500,000 of Armenians living in Ukraine. Of course, in this global geopolitical processes, they are all of them they're affected by this conflict, and of course it creates real problems for their families, and it's impossible just to avoid of such a problems in this global dynamics.
That means that a part of the people who try to run away war in Ukraine, we suppose that they are also ethnic Armenians. Some of them who are trying to escape through Romania.
Yes, and also I would like to use this moment and to say thank to our colleagues and partners from Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Romania, from Border Police, from other state agencies that really helped us together with our community members on the northern part of Romania to help people to pass the border between Ukraine and Romania and provide asylum on the territory of Romania. We have also quite a big numbers of Armenians that live in Ukraine for another direction. For example, in Poland, we have this same issues on border of Poland. I guess also in case of Slovakia, and we are also involved in providing some support to our compatriots that now are living Ukraine, also in Republic of Moldova.
So they try to escape through any gate which is open for them.
Yes, it's a problem, and unfortunately, it's not the first time the last years that Armenians are facing with such troubles. You know that 2 years ago we also had a full-scale war resumption in Nagorno-Karabakh when Azerbaijan started military aggression.
We know that.
And also dozen thousands of Armenians from Nagorno-Karabakh and the border line regions of Republic of Armenia, they also left their houses. And
I still remember, Your Excellency, that that films, that talk shows, that broadcast by CNN, Fox News, showing ethnic Armenians going to get on fire their houses, their belongings, and trying to escape from Nagorno-Karabakh. It was very impressive, that moments, because they were to be destroyed by the other forces anyhow, so they preferred to destroy their own houses and try to escape.
Yes, and you know, also the war of Nagorno-Karabakh on 2020, it also demonstrated the very deep crisis of all architecture of the European security. Because in situation when one country of the European political space, I mean Azerbaijan, member of Eastern Partnership program of EU and a close partner of European Union in energy terms, member of Council of Europe, started a war with a direct support of Turkey, another important strategic and geopolitical partner of EU, when they deploying international terrorist group from the Middle East in this space, and we didn't receive appropriate reaction from international community or the European structures. Of course, it's became a very bad precedent for future developments in the sphere of security, military, political processes on the all post-Soviet and European space.
Now Nagorno-Karabakh is back a frozen conflict, right?
Yes, we have more or less stable ceasefire regime in territory of Nagorno-Karabakh. The only peacekeeping forces that are deployed now in that region are Russian peacekeepers. We have also a problem with access of humanitarian organizations to the region because of the position of Azerbaijani side. But besides that, last year we were also witness of the direct incursion of the Azerbaijani forces on the internationally recognized territory of Armenia, in the southern part of Armenia. We have some territories that that Azerbaijani forces they crossed, and they now still deploy that. And we also see military threats from the Azerbaijani leadership of possible resumption of military action in this region.
That means that unfortunately your nation, one of the oldest one, had the taste of the war before we did it here in the middle of Europe, as I may say so.
Yes, unfortunately, we had a very bad, very sad record of such kind of violations. And just yesterday in the Armenian Church of Bucharest, we also had a commemoration of one of the first ethnic pogroms in Soviet Union after the Second World War in 1988. There were also pogroms on Armenian population in Sumgait, in the city of Sumgait, not far from capital of Azerbaijan, Baku. And after this pogrom, also the current stage of Nagorno-Karabakh conflict started at the end of the Soviet era, when pogroms in this Armenian, in some of Armenian populated cities in Soviet Azerbaijan, they started a new dark age in the history of our country, in the history of Armenians living in the South Caucasus, and started one of the bloodiest and complex wars and conflicts that we are witness in the case of Nagorno-Karabakh.
You had war, then you had the pandemics. Is the Armenian economics going to recover? How are you doing from the economical point of view?
Of course, 2020's war and COVID pandemic, it's really very heavily affected our social and economic situation. I wouldn't say that we now in a very brilliant situation in this process of recovering after all these difficulties, But anyway, figures demonstrated slowly rising and recovering of our economic situation, and let's hope that the further challenges in sphere of security in our region will not affect on this positive process.
You mentioned about the church, the Armenian church in Bucharest. We all know the Armenian church in Bucharest is famous, and the street is named by Strada Armenească. But I understand one of the oldest churches, Christian churches, in Romania is Armenian.
Yes, we have a couple of Armenian churches on the northern part of Romania in Botoșani and Suceava regions, and Hachkatar Monastery that was built at the beginning of 16th century. It's one of the most important spiritual and sacral centers of Suceava region, not only for Armenians but also for Romanians, because the spiritual link between two our churches is well, it's very deep historical, and I also should know and appreciate also position of the Romanian Orthodox Church concerning the situation with Armenian religious and historical heritage on the territories of Nagorno-Karabakh.
We'll be back in 1 second after a short break for advertisement. Your Excellency, important thing you mentioned about these churches, Orthodox Church, as a matter of fact. Do we have connections between the Romanian Orthodox Church and the Armenian Orthodox Church?
Of course, we not only have a very strong connection. As I mentioned, Armenian Orthodox Church, our bishopric here of Armenian Apostolic Church, it's recognized as one of the oldest religious confessions here in Romania, according to the rules and according to constitution. You mentioned about the address of Armenian Church in Bucharest, Strada Armenească, but I should also add that we have almost maybe 15 or 20 cities and towns in Romania with Strada Armenească, with Armenian streets. And
because you have a
yes,
big community.
Yes, and on all these streets we also had and have Armenian churches. Moreover, in Transylvania we have also not so big but also with deep historical roots Armenian Catholic community. And in Gerla and Dumbrăveni in Transylvania, we have two biggest Armenian Catholic church in the world. So that's why our relation in spiritual sphere with Romanians, with other peoples and nations that are living in your country, in this religious spiritual sphere, it's really linked in multi-domain spheres. And we are very proud. And we're also very proud that both in spiritual but also in economic, in cultural, in educational spheres, our community very linked and very represented in Romania, enjoying also full support from society and authorities of your country.
I guess relationships between our two countries are mostly in the cultural field, right? And this thing with the minorities, because none of the two countries, they don't have enough, an economy strong enough to break the economical trade changes.
I would say that this cultural, historical, spiritual relation, it's just very solid basis for our relation in other spheres. And as an ambassador, of course, I paid special attention to our bilateral political and economic relations. And I should also tell that we have a very positive record of cooperation in sphere of various international organizations, European structures. As I mentioned, for us, Romania is one of the closest partners in the European Union. Also, it's one of the geographically closest our partners as a NATO member country, and of course all these factors played important role. And for Romania, Armenia also as a partner and a friendly country based in South Caucasus that also can help to open some ways for Romanian business, for tourists on the post-Soviet space or on the Middle Eastern area.
Are you planning any important cultural events this year in Romania?
You know, we still have, because of this COVID situation, we had to postpone some events and exhibitions that were dedicated to 30 years of our diplomatic relations. We also have postponed some mutual visits of high-level officials, and I hope that with possible relaxation of this COVID constraint regime, we'll be able to conduct all these plans that we previously planned with our colleagues in Romania in cultural, historical sphere to demonstrate all our historical capacity, but also our potential for future development on our multi-level cooperation between Armenia and Romania.
Do you have also exchanges in scholarships, education, I don't know, scholars, universities, this kind of field?
It's one of the most important elements and most effective elements of our cooperation. We have a very solid juridical basis in this way. We have intergovernmental agreements in exchange in sphere of education, and dozens and dozens Armenian students still they are studying in Romanian different universities. We have also Romanian students, and excluding also PhD students that are studying in Armenian universities or academic centers.
It's bilateral.
It's bilateral that in force still since the mid-90s. So that's why this is, I would say that cooperation in educational and academic sphere, it's one of the most efficient and most productive spheres of our bilateral relations.
Well, Your Excellency, hope to see each other in a more calm situation as it is now, but your messages were very important, I guess, and our readers received them. Thank you so much for being our guest in DC News and Defense Romania. Both of our sides, we're going to broadcast this talk show with you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Stimații telespectatori, a fost Excelența sa, ambasadorul extraordinar și plenipotențiar al Armeniei la București, Sergey Minasyan. Pe curând!